Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. To start things off, Changpeng Zhao, CEO of Binance, announced that the platform will officially launch futures trading sometime in September. Zhao voiced this statement on Twitter during an Ask Me Anything session that happened on the 28th of August. According to Cointelegraph Japan, the company also announced its focus on the staking business, which I believe we spoke about a day or two ago. As Cointelegraph reported on the 2nd of July, Zhao revealed the company plans to launch a futures trading platform with initial support for Bitcoin and USDT, contracts at a leverage of around 20x. So this is now officially confirmed. Here's the actual video tweet, the Veet right here of him talking about it. It's 46 minutes long, so I don't know how many of you really plan on watching the entire thing, but here's the actual him mentioning of it, and also keeping in mind nope, that's not it. There we go, right there. Everything seems to be trying to launch in September. We don't have an exact date for Binance's futures launch, but I assume, or one would assume, that they're trying to do this directly before the people from the New York Stock Exchange end up launching Bakkt, which I believe is supposed to launch on the 23rd of September. Going to be a very fascinating couple of weeks, especially as we are at the moment, what is it, 1 or 2 days away from September. I expect things to slightly pick up as all of this momentum ends up gaining steam. Next up, the Santiago Stock Exchange, or the STE, Central Securities Depository, this DCV, and the Global Trade Directory, the GTD, announced a new blockchain association. Latin America focused business intelligence firm BN Americas reported on the 27th of August that STE, DCV, and GTD have set up a consortium for blockchain financial application development, which is reportedly the first such initiative in Latin America. The agreement foresees the creation of a business blockchain network, infrastructure meant to connect stock market clients worldwide via nodes that will provide access to the different applications running on the Hyperledger-based platform. There's that word. Once again, Hyperledger. Anytime you hear Hyperledger or R3, which I think are also partnered together as well, it typically in the back end, one of the main features of the things that are going to be running on that as well are the Ethereum blockchain and XRP. Fascinating. Central Securities Depository General Manager Fernando Yanez commented on the development by saying, since 2017, we have been working with other security deposits in the world in the application of blockchain to the services of our industry, to which is added the project that we are carrying out with the Central Bank of Chile to incorporate this technology in the issuance of its financial instruments. End quote. After signing the agreement, the three institutions will form a technical committee tasked with developing or designing the system within 6 months. And apparently they're going to have a team who's going to have to build the blockchain platform within the next 18 months. Cool. First of all, I was just talking about yesterday how normally we don't hear about South America / Latin America in the cryptocurrency space as often, which I think is a shame. Secondly, we just heard about Brazil, I think, giving cryptocurrency regulation within the country yesterday, or something happened with Brazil yesterday. So it's evident in my mind that what we appear to be seeing is the beginning of the blockchain revolution transformation. That sounds too strong and too mighty. It appears that countries are finally starting to get the understanding that they have to also move forward with the technology as well. As far as them either just simply giving out regulatory clarity as to exactly what's going to be happening with cryptocurrencies and who can own it, who can't own it, who can touch it, and how much you have to pay with taxes, but also building of the infrastructure so that they don't lag behind with the rest of the world. It's nice to hear that this is happening. I assume, once again, as this is happening through the Hyperledger platform, we'll get more news about, and I think it's going to take a lot of time. I think a lot of countries are still scared of saying exactly that they're going to be using a cryptocurrency or using a blockchain-based platform, or that something behind the scenes will be running on blockchain. I feel like it's still very taboo for countries and central banks to say that they've accepted this when it's fairly obvious that they have accepted it and that they have no choice in the near future to also accept it. But also, as far as we usually get like snippets of information, like whenever we get news like this, it's typically always like this is going to happen. They partner with them, and them, but it's never like what exactly is in the back end and exactly who is using what and how much of a usage of the other cryptocurrencies is going to actually be happening. I always find that very fascinating because I still think that, like I said, it's very taboo. Even like when we found out last year that there were banks and institutions and governments, who knows, allegedly, buying up cryptocurrencies, it was always very hush-hush, or like they would come forward the next day, say, no, that's a lie, when it's fairly obvious. If we're getting information about institutions also buying up large amounts of cryptocurrencies, one can only assume that as a bank, and banks are typically greedy, that banks are probably also buying this up as well, even though they continue to say that they're not really in the cryptocurrency space. Anyway, so the Santiago Stock Exchange is now also getting into the blockchain space, as it is going to be made for everyone around the world, stock market clients worldwide. Fascinating, and I assume within 2 years, not even for the finishing of this, which I think is kind of a long time, I think we'll start to hear more news or news articles or people bragging about exactly which cryptocurrencies that they got into early. It's still one of those, I want to get into it without anybody else knowing, so that in 5 years, when I've made all this money, then I can brag to other people that they didn't get into it at the exact same time. This is kind of how I feel about it, but still good that the cryptocurrency space is spreading in other parts of the world. I find it fascinating. Next up, the nominee for the chairmanship of Korea's top financial regulator on Monday indicated that he would maintain the current policy and policy direction in terms of cryptocurrencies and crypto exchanges. Yoon Sung-soo's comments, which were delivered in written form to the parliamentary committee ahead of his Thursday confirmation hearing, where the top post as the Financial Services Commission, suggests that uncertainty will remain and that most activity will continue for some time in legal and regulatory gray areas. And I appreciate them telling the truth. I appreciate them knowing that they're taking their time and them understanding that they've left everyone in a gray area. I don't agree with what they're doing, but I appreciate them just finally coming out and saying the truth and letting everyone know that they know that they're taking a long time and that they intend to continue with the uncertainty to make it burdensome on everyone within their country. His comments were carried in a variety of local publications, including the Chonsu Libo. Okay, Yoon wrote that laws related to cryptocurrencies which have been languishing in the National Assembly need to be passed as soon as possible. These include amendments to the specific Financial Information Act, which focus on reporting, transparency, and anti-money laundering. At the same time, the nominee alluded to the speculative fever peaking in January 2018, specifically referencing the kimchi premium. For those who do not know, the kimchi premium at the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018 was when Bitcoin was going for a lot. It was going for about 30% higher in South Korea, and I also believe parts of Japan, or within Japan as well. People were losing their minds, but I think South Korea was in control of the market, and because these people there were willing to pay 30% more for a Bitcoin, it became known as the kimchi premium, and noted the risks potentially caused by cryptocurrencies. He expressed skepticism about the integration of coins into the existing financial system and caution that the legal foundation should be well established first. Side note, I find it very weird that at this point anyone, no, it's fine. I was going to say, I think it's weird that there are still people who are skeptical, but I understand that also the main people who make the laws and make the frameworks and make all these other things, especially the people within the United States and within the United Kingdom and many other places around the world, who have continued to say that cryptocurrencies are still going to be considered securities, or they pretty much fall under the commodity and securities rules. I think they obviously, typically, maybe want the status quo to remain the same. I think it's so perplexing to them that people would even want things digitally. There was a like a news thing on television. This was years ago, and they were discussing to themselves, why would anybody want a Bitcoin? Why would anybody want money that they couldn't touch? They would rather have a debit card, a credit card, or simply just cash in their hand because they couldn't really, fathom why anybody would want digital money. And there was, I remember, like about a good week and some change later, somebody uploaded a video on YouTube, and it was that same exact clip. And immediately after it was a clip from the news. I believe it was 1991 or 1992. And it was three newscasters discussing to themselves, why would have you guys heard of this internet thing? No, I haven't heard of it. And they're like talking about the internet like there's something called an email. What's an email? Well, you type onto a keyboard and you send someone digital mail. Why would anybody need that? Why would anybody want that? I'd rather just write a letter to my friend. I have a friend in Paris right now. I'd rather just it was the most perplexing thing because we understand how powerful the internet actually is. So to still have skepticism, I understand it. I don't agree with it because it's kind of ridiculous, but I think these people also, I think the last thing that they care about on this planet right now is the advent of digital currencies and the cryptocurrency space. It probably means absolutely nothing to them. It will mean something eventually to them, but as of right now, they don't really care. The point to be made is that South Korea once controlled a large portion of the volume within the cryptocurrency space. At the beginning of 2018, many government leaders within South Korea and also banking leaders came forward and said that they didn't like the speculative nature of cryptocurrencies and therefore they were going to ban it. Other people came forward and said, you can't ban it. It's illegal. We don't control it. We didn't create it. So therefore that entire thing was kind of moot. But what is happening, or what has happened thus far, is that Japan and South Korea said that they were going to give cryptocurrency regulations. I think Japan has done so with like huge, they're very stringent, like very tight regulations because of all the hacks that have happened there. But South Korea knows that the moment that they give any type of proper cryptocurrency regulation, that things will go completely insane again. Because apparently, even if you watch not many documentaries, like 15-minute clips of things happening within South Korea within the cryptocurrency space, people there are obsessed with cryptocurrencies, and I think the government knows it. A lot of the people who typically run governments are very traditional. They're very what's the word for it? Traditional. They're used to the old ways and they don't want to change things. So this is why they keep saying that there's going to be a go slow approach to crypto. That's not how things work anymore. There were analysts before who were actually tracking, because people have tried to see if the price of Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency space actually ends up mimicking the traditional stock markets or any other financial markets that we've seen over the last 150 to 200 years. And it doesn't. Or if it does happen to mimic it at any given point, i.e. the go up and go down, Bitcoin usually reacts about 15 times faster than traditional markets. So any type of slow movement doesn't usually make a lot of sense. And this is why I think that once again, 2018 was a period where governments thought that cryptocurrencies were dead. I'm pretty sure they had a very huge sigh of relief because they didn't have to deal with, this is why he looks so sad, because they wouldn't have to deal with creating regulations anymore. But even as Bitcoin's price, regardless of it being down right now, has still tripled even from where it is currently right now since the beginning of this year. And I think it's very burdensome on them to have to even think of doing this. Part of the problem with, it's a problem and a blessing. It's a problem for them because cryptocurrencies, regardless if they want to give regulation or not, if they want to go slow, it's going to continue to develop at a rapid pace. We don't have thousands of coders around the world working on Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Litecoin, etc., and all these other people who are into the cryptocurrency system and also throwing money into the cryptocurrency space, who are sitting with bated breath as they wait to see exactly what regulators are going to do in 3 years' time. The longer they take, on the other hand, like I said, the blessing is better for us, because the more nodes that come out for Bitcoin, the stronger the Lightning Network becomes, the more infrastructure that we get put into place, the more all this other stuff that ends up happening, even within the United States, even when we have situations like back to launching. NASDAQ apparently is supposed to be launching their Bitcoin futures as well sometime this year. We haven't heard a gosh darn word about it, but so saith the news. Anyway, the point being, the longer they take, the better it is for us. The more our infrastructure gets stronger, like every single day, like our networks do, it just only continues to benefit us. And by the time we end up having news, and this is going to be the greatest part, I think for me, what's fascinating is as Bitcoin integrates into just about everything, even if you want to go a step further, even as a blockchain begins to integrate into almost every single financial system around the world, whether it be with stock exchanges, institutions, banks, you name it. How many major stock exchanges around the world have announced that they're moving over to a blockchain-based platform, or that they're going to have Bitcoin futures or cryptocurrency trading on their platform? As the world moves over to this, and I think it's going to ignite more I'm not certain if prices are going to completely lose their mind this year. I expect prices to go up as we get closer to the Bitcoin futures launching. Definitely expect that. I don't know if they're going to reach the $38 billion mark per Bitcoin this year. But as we do move forward and cryptocurrencies become stronger and the prices become a lot higher, more people are going to get into the cryptocurrency space. As more people get into Bitcoin and Bitcoins, and as Bitcoin prices goes a lot higher and governments are forced to deal with this, I think they're still going to take around 2 years to give any type of proper regulation, which is even greater because once, imagine a world where Bitcoin has hit $35,000. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone loves it. Everybody needs Bitcoin. Everyone's trying to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. It's been integrated into the system for about a good 2 or 3 years. Everyone's going insane over it. And all of a sudden, the Bitcoin core developers announce that they're going to have private transactions layers put on top of Bitcoin so that no one can tell where the transactions are going. I think that's going to cause regulators to lose it. And I know that it's coming. I can feel it in the air. We've had we've had discussions before about people who are trying to build privacy layers on top of these cryptocurrencies. I don't know. This is the way that I feel about it. The slower they go, and they're going to continue to go slow. I mean, we were told by spring of last year that we'd have regulation, and just about every single country is talking about going slower. If they are releasing cryptocurrency regulation, it usually ties cryptocurrencies once again under a commodity and or a securities classification. Anyway, it only benefits us. Let's move on. So, here's kind of the news of the hour, if you will. Not really. The point is, we've been getting a lot of information about what China is doing regarding its digital currency. We had news a couple of weeks ago that China was apparently already done with their cryptocurrency, digital coin, forgive me, and that they planned on launching it relatively soon. About a day and some change ago, we had news that apparently China was done with their cryptocurrency and that they planned on distributing it to a couple of major institutions within China. Almost immediately after that, we had news that the China stablecoin, which is linked to their fiat currency, would be launching sometime in November. Almost immediately after that, we had news that kind of tied the entire thing together, and this is where we are right now. As China's central bank gets ready to launch its own cryptocurrency, Forbes reported on the 27th of August that the People's Bank of China would launch a state-backed digital currency and issue it to 7 institutions in the coming months. In an immediate response, sources close to the central bank said that the report was simply an inaccurate speculation. According to the Forbes report, China's central bank will give its first round of an upcoming central bank digital currency to 7 institutions as early as the 11th of November. And these institutions are China Construction Bank. No, it's the Commercial Bank of China, the Bank of China, the Agricultural Bank of China, the China Construction Bank, Alibaba, Tencent, and UnionPay. We'll all receive the digital currency, and I'll tell you why that's significant in a couple of seconds. In the report, an anonymous source, because they're always anonymous, who's involved in the development of the central bank digital currency, confirmed that the 7 institutions noted by Schulta would receive the new asset when it launches, also disclosing that an 8th institution could also be among the first tier of recipients. The source added that the technology has been ready since last year, and the central bank digital currency could roll out as soon as November 2019. Why November 2019? This ties into my speculation that everyone's trying to get things ready before the end of the year. I think everyone is trying to launch before December. I feel like December may be a very taboo month. Not exactly sure. Maybe they're trying to get their stuff in place because we have seen run-ups before in price around December. So maybe everyone's trying to make sure that their technology, everything is rolled out, my opinion, before we end up hitting December. And also, we had news. We had news before that China is trying to launch their digital currency before Facebook. That is very imperative to them to launch this before Facebook gets any type of hold on any type of market that they're trying to control themselves. These institutions will reportedly be responsible for dispersing the coin to 1.3 billion Chinese citizens and others doing business in the renminbi. According to Forbes, additionally, the source disclosed that the central bank hopes the currency will eventually be made available to spenders in the United States. and elsewhere through relationships with correspondents back in the West, end quote. I feel like, China's system that they're trying to make in general is going to be extremely closed. I'm not exactly sure how they plan on getting this to pass from China into another space, especially since we've seen backlash. If we've seen backlash against Facebook trying to make a coin from US leaders and other world leaders, I think it's going to be a bit of it's going to be a bit difficult for the United States to also try and accept the renminbi coin within the United States, just off of basic speculation in my own head. However, a few hours after the news broke out, a source close to the bank told Sina Finance, one of China's largest financial news providers, that the statement in the report was an inaccurate guess. According to the previous report by 8BTC, China's state digital currency features a two-layer operation mechanism that entitles commercial banks or other institutions to disperse the central bank digital currency, and it is ready to roll out, which Forbes already said. But the immediate response from an unknown source in a Chinese outlet leaves it unclear how the long-awaited central bank cryptocurrency will launch. The country has been stepping up its efforts to develop so Facebook. The point is, Alipay, Tencent, UnionPay, WeChat, I think Weibo is another one of them. I think Weibo. Those are the other ones who aren't in the list, but these are only 7 of them, so one can only assume that the 8th one will probably be the WeChat and WeChat Pay. These are the largest everything within China. They're not trying to... The initial idea is that when Facebook's Libra does launch, it will not have immediate access to the 2.4 billion people who are on their platforms. That it'll have to be a bit of a slow rollout. So slow, air quotes. So a couple 100 million people every couple of months will be introduced to it as regulators get more comfortable with the idea of Facebook having their own coin. China doesn't have to deal with that. China has 1.3 billion people within their country, and they're going to make sure that from the get-go that everyone has access to this. And I assume, because especially if you've ever watched documentaries on exactly what's happening within China, China never went through in the Western, air quotes, part of the world where we went through, cash and then checks. And then some people had debit cards, and then more people had debit and credit cards. And then by the 90s, everyone was, swiping in those old Discover card commercials and stuff like that. I've watched all these things on the internet. China never went through that period. China was under, and still is under, heavy regulatory rule. But at a certain point, by the time that China became more developed, if you get what I'm saying, they switched completely to using smartphones and digital currencies already within the country. So they're used to tapping their phones, tapping this or whatever, so and so. And so there was never a really weird transitional period like we're having right now around the world where people are trying to stray away from using debit cards. I'm pretty sure you've noticed, if you've ever been to London, I think they're also trying to launch this in New York as well, where you pretty much you can walk up to the actual entrance of the metro, as you're trying to enter into it, and just tap your phone. This is what China's already doing and has been doing for quite a long amount of time. So there will be no slow rollout period for this. They're going to make sure that everyone within the country knows what it is. I can only imagine what they're having on television over there, telling people exactly how great this is going to be. You can't wait to use it because we're telling you can't wait to use it, and how it's going to be adopted very, very quick. But as far as it going to the rest of the world, I'm skeptical because it's going to be a closed system. They've mentioned before that it's going to be just within them, so I don't understand exactly how they plan on getting that to launch within the rest of the world. The other part is I wonder exactly what effect this is going to have on Bitcoin. Not in a negative manner, but more so, we've seen that regardless of any cryptocurrency ban within China, that Bitcoin is still incredibly popular and people are allowed to hold it and also do over-the-counter trades, which pretty much has to... I can only imagine the forms you have to fill out and send to the government as this is actually being executed. But it's very fascinating. If they're indeed going to be launching this sometime in November, which also isn't very far away, I wonder what other countries are also going to start to try and do this. It's very, well, this is it. I mean, we've entered the period of no going back. Bitcoin and blockchain have become so popular, and this is the evidence that governments are now creating their own digital currencies to try and deter people from using a free, open, permissionless system. This is the only thing that they're actually capable of doing. Once again, as I haven't been in the space forever, but this was also spoken about years ago that this was going to happen. And the 2.0 of this, of governments creating their own digital currencies, is that they're going to fail, is that people will realize how restrictive they are, and that behind the scenes or even openly, people will reject them and continue to buy and accuse one another digital currencies simply because they will be able to see the actual inflation rate in real time for these currencies. Because when you live in a world where you can print out money, you can print out as much as you want and kind of disperse it. But in a world where everything is completely digital, and this has to also be transparent not only to banks but other institutions, this information will eventually leak. I'm sure there will be websites that tell us in real time exactly how many of these coins are going to be created, especially if they're happening on a blockchain. And we'll be able to see in real time the actual inflation rate of these digital currencies, or also the big kicker, which is also expected as well, will be the moment when multiple countries have their own digital currencies and the world goes through a recession or a stock market crash or something detrimental to the world economy over the course of a 2-year period. And when people start to have a bank run, air quotes, when everyone tries to take their money out of the bank at the exact same time, and they realize that they can't because it's digital and it's on their phone, and the people who control the network are their governments, and they start locking people's accounts if people can't withdraw their money or put it into another asset. This is already happening within China. People already aren't allowed to move their money out of the country, I think, in like a 50,000 per year basis or something like that. So imagine a situation where you get news that the stock markets are falling, you're losing money, and you try to take your money out of the bank, but you can't because it's digital. You go, okay, I'm going to try and buy other assets, and you can't because the network tells you that you can't do so. This is, once again, already also happening right now. People, I think there's over 1 million people within China who are part of that Sesame credit score system, and they can't leave the country. And it says it when they try to buy a train ticket or a plane ticket on their phone, on any website, it tells them, no, your credit score is too low, and therefore you can't leave the country. So just imagine when everything is digital, everything is traced by the government. And also on these platforms as well, if you talk negatively about the government on any of their texting social media platforms, the government also knows, and your credit score also goes down. So imagine a situation where, hypothetically, you have 150,000 US dollar equivalent in your bank account. You're really upset that day. The government did something against you. You write something negative about them. You can't leave the country. You can't buy a train ticket. You can't buy a bus ticket. You can't buy a plane ticket. And you can't access your money. It's going to happen. Like it's written in the digital stars. I can already see it happening. But I believe we'll get the first major cracks in the system by the end of next year. If this works out for the first 2 months of China creating this, I think other countries immediately are going to try and create their own. And then that's when we'll see things really hitting the fan, because governments, people in general, I'll put it that way, don't remain competent for that long. And at some point, cracks start to show in the system. And when other governments try to create their own central bank digital currency and it doesn't work out, people are going to fight back. And this is, once again, also the other side of the coin. This is how it benefits Bitcoin. Fascinating. Let's move on to kind of more or less finish things off. For those of you who have not seen, have not noted, have not looked at the prices, I do apologize for telling you, especially if you are just waking up. The cryptocurrency prices within the market have fallen. At the moment, depending on where you look, I think earlier Bitcoin was at $9,300. It's very weird because I said about a couple of days ago, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin's price ended up falling a bit further. Not an oracle. It just so happens that this was apparently going to happen. The information that we have thus far, it says analyst and Forbes contributor Brandon Coffey says that CME's Bitcoin futures contracts, which settled on Friday, could be playing a role in the pullback of prices. He said Bitcoin's plunge isn't necessarily a critical blow. It could be a rope-a-dope, I have no idea what that is, to shake out some traders and buy cheaper. After all, I'm not the only one who studies chart patterns. Plenty of big traders do too, especially in Bitcoin, which is saddled with additional complexities you see in equities created by index funds and large mainstream investment fund buying. It's very common in other assets, futures especially, for big traders to force a move to trigger sell stops in a contrarian method to build a stronger base for a bull move. In short, there's more than one possible explanation right now. Meanwhile, Chief Investment Officer at Arca, Jeff Dorman, told Bloomberg, low trading volumes are partially to blame. This person said, it's the week before Labor Day. Half of crypto is at Burning Man. Not true, I'm not there. And the other half is sitting on their hands. Nope, I'm making a video. Volumes are low and it's very little to move markets right now. And you have a big futures option expiration coming up at the end of the week. Backtracking a tiny bit, I personally don't think that low trading volumes are to blame. If you look at the Bitcoin charts while we wait for it to load, there we go. There's two numbers. The top number is the price of Bitcoin, and the lower number is the volume of Bitcoin. That says 20 million. Even if you go long and the volume goes up slowly, hitting the billions of dollars into Bitcoin, by the time you reach if I can get it, around $20,000, Bitcoin had a trading volume of around 11 billion US dollars. As time went on, prices sank, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Where we are right now, we are just about double, if not more, of where Bitcoin's trading volume was by the time Bitcoin ended up hitting $20,000. Bitcoin's trading volume is at the highest level just about ever, even as prices have been stagnating around the $10,000 level. I don't think that trading volumes are low. I think they're probably not to blame for this. What probably is to blame for the price going back, and this shouldn't scare and or surprise anyone, because we've seen this thousands and okay, so that's over exaggeration. We've seen it about 15 times already. Every single time that a Bitcoin futures contract is about to expire from, I believe it's CBOE. It's not CME. One of them doesn't have it anymore. CME. There we go. CME. Bitcoin's price goes down. I will read the headlines for you. Bitcoin tumbles from record and biggest slump since futures. Bitcoin price drop caused by futures expiration. This was June 15th, 2018. Bitcoin drops as usual before futures expires, but three facets state Bitcoin going up. This was August 30th, 2018. And to bring it on home, Bitcoin futures expired last week. Did it affect $10 billion plunge of crypto markets? This was February 3rd, 2019. This happens every single time that the futures ends up going down. Who knows for certain? We have analysts talking about why it could be going down, why it went down because of the futures. What we've seen thus far and what the speculation has been is that people are trying to work two sides of the market. People are trying to either push the price of Bitcoin down if they are a whale so that they can accumulate more on another cryptocurrency exchange, or people within the futures contracts are trying to push the price of Bitcoin down and say that Bitcoin is going to go lower in an effort to, once again, push the prices of the actual market down so that they can accumulate more Bitcoin. This is why I am quite excited for the launch of the physical Bitcoin futures, because I can assume, and many other people are assuming, that if we had news before that the CME, I think per month, is having around $500 million worth of Bitcoin futures contract from like a couple of hundred people who are sloshing money around into the space. I wonder exactly what that volume is going to look like when the New York Stock Exchange launches their Bitcoin futures, and even more so, it's going to be physical Bitcoin futures. So one can only assume that the major cryptocurrency pricing websites, especially CoinMarketCap, CoinCodex, Coin blah, 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 et cetera, are also going to have metrics and numbers for these things that are going to be happening within the Bitcoin network. And exactly, I'm expecting maybe not the end of this year, but I'm definitely looking forward to a $100 billion 24-hour Bitcoin volume. I think we almost hit it once. No. We were like a third away. Where was it? Somewhere around here. We hit 33 billion, I think, over the course of a 24-hour period. There we go, 33 billion. And that was when Bitcoin was $11,930. One can only assume if Bitcoin hits $35,000, $40,000, the world's going to completely lose their minds. $100 billion? Do you understand how much money that is over the course of a 24-hour period? We had news last year. No, forgive me. At the beginning of this year, that's last year, Bitcoin had transacted over $1 trillion worth of value over the course of 2018 as prices were going down. Oh my goodness, what good times we have ahead. The point is, every single time the futures ends, Bitcoin's price goes down. I don't think this will continue for that much longer. I think there's going to be a large amount of momentum for Bakkt. This is just my personal opinion. It could be complete opposite. Bitcoin could go to zero. No one knows. That's part of the market. It's all speculation. But when we're no longer dealing in fiat to Bitcoin trades and it's simply Bitcoin to Bitcoin futures trades, that's going to be quite fascinating and even more so. People usually deal in fiat to end up getting more Bitcoin. What happens when people are fighting with each other to get more Bitcoin directly? Like, people are going to be fighting to make sure that they get ahead in this situation so that they acquire more, so that they get more than other people. Because once again, there's not a lot of Bitcoin going around. Very, very excited about this. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters: Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Adam Kryzik, Mohair Maroney, Vaster Ventures in Thailand, Brady Niels, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Mill Weezy, JR, Mechanic, Strange Radio, why'd I breathe like that? Strange Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Coldy 3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas, One Earth, One Peace, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Crypto Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Garner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, and Miller Hitch Chest every single day. And Kyle keeps skipping those leg days. Thank you all very much for your support at the moment. It's red. The whole market's red. It's to be expected because of after what we just read. Oh, anyway. The point is, yeah, Bitcoin when I woke up was 9,320. It looks like the market's trying to go back up. Don't get your hopes up for today. I assume as we move further once again into September, things will look a bit brighter. It's very weird because at the beginning of this month, remember we had an article and it stated that August is typically a, what's the word? Like a downtrend month for the cryptocurrency market. And I was like, no, it's not. And the prices started going up. But I think a lot of things are self-fulfilling prophecies. If you repeat things enough times, things end up happening. No coin is really hit more than any other coin. They're all within the same general range, anywhere from 8 to 15% down. But I assume prices will try to move back up. But don't expect a $10,000 again Bitcoin by the end of this day, unless we get news that Fidelity and NASDAQ are launching tomorrow. Just going to throw it out there. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.